Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. I'm your host, Chris Noble. And today we have an amazing guest, Dr. Beverly Lawrence, PhD. And she's a very fascinating individual who I'm really excited to dive into some really incredible topics today. But just to give you a little bit background on Beverly. So she's a metaphysical scientist and a consciousness researcher whose life work bridges the frontiers of science and spirit. As the founder of the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy and Healing Center, she integrates quantum principles, energy medicine, astrology, and ancient wisdom traditions to guide others through profound personal transformation. With a background in holistic science and decades of study in esoteric systems like the Hermetica, Kabbalah, and traditional Chinese medicine, Beverly translates the language of the cosmos into practical tools for awakening, which will absolutely be dropping some of those gems in this episode for you, beautiful people listening and watching to this episode. And having experienced near death states and deep initiation, she embodies the union of mystical insight and scientific clarity, reminding us that Earth itself is a living classroom for consciousness evolution. And you can learn more at drbeverlylawrence.com. We're going to have all of her information in the show notes, as always. But that's just a little bit of information on Dr. Beverly, and we're going to bring her right into the show right now to get more information on her incredible life's work. Beverly, how you doing? Welcome to Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. How you doing today?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing great. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. We were just talking before we started to record about your near-death experiences and these incredible states of consciousness. Before we get into that, because that sounds absolutely fascinating, I would love to hear more of your background and how did you get to where you got to today? I guess more of a summary, because obviously this is a very big story of your life here. But what was that maybe first moment of awakening for yourself where you at whatever point it was in your life where you really started to think maybe there's more going on here? What was that like for you, and how did that bring you to where you are today?
Well, I had a very challenging childhood. And if you don't deal with your stuff, you get to recreate it. And I recreated it in my marriage. So I spent 20 years in a duplicate of my terrible childhood. And I started getting very sick. I finally realized I had to get divorced. And I was literally dying. I had everything wrong, cancer, you name it. And I kept going into anaphylactic shock several times a week. The doctors said, the emergency room doctors said, I'm tired of seeing you here. I used to hike mountains all the time. I was rescued off Mission Peak by a helicopter, and I was rescued off Angel Island by a ranger boat. I mean, it was getting pretty bad. And I said, well, I've been to many doctors. Who do I go to? He said, go to an allergist. So I went to an allergist. I spent an hour with her, and she said, I can't help you. So at this point, I'm desperate. I know the Western medicine's going to kill me. I don't know what to do. And I had a doctor that I liked that I didn't need anymore. He was a gynecologist that I'd had a hysterectomy. I didn't need a gynecologist, but I thought, I'll go see him because I liked him. And he said, you need to meditate. So he tells an atheist, you need to go meditate. And I'm going, what? Like, what? So I thought, I'm desperate. I will do it. And I asked around at work, and I found a bunch of people who meditated. One of them gave me a book. This was a long time ago when we read books and we had libraries. So I read the book, and he said, you can go to the TM Center, which is where I started meditating. They taught me how to meditate. And, they said, if you do a strong meditation, in 2 weeks, you'll be here. In 2 months, you'll be here. In 2 years, you'll be here. And if you're lucky, in 10 years, you'll be here. Well, in 2 weeks, I'm at 2 months. In 2 months, I'm way beyond 10 years. I had this profound experience with Source. I knew who I was. I remember my past lives. I know my purpose. I know why I'm here and what I'm supposed to do. And I went, crap, I was supposed to get divorced like 10 years ago, and you're now at least way behind. And so I was blessed that Source gave me all kinds of money and time off. I had a 6-figure salary working part-time, 6 to 9 months a year. And I just immersed myself in as much training as I could. I went to mystery schools. I did a 3-year residential shamanic training program. I studied with Tuvan shamans. I studied with Tom Cohen. I spent 2 weeks at Esalen with Dr. Harner and Sandra Ingerman. I went to different divinity type schools. I spent time in Nepal doing Kora and other things. I went to Glastonbury, England. And so I just immersed myself in learning and growing, and people saw me healing. Cancer just spontaneously went away. The doctor said, "What did you do?" "I don't understand. Your cancer's gone." People at work saw me go from ashen white to, this was a long time ago when my hair was a different color, not so much gray. And they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I got certified in this and certified in that. And I became a medical hypnotherapist. I did all kinds of things. I had so many certifications." And they said, "Well, will you help me?" And I said, "Okay." Keep in mind, I was in technology. I'm a computer geek. So the thought of me being a healer never occurred to me. And so people started coming to me, and I was just helping them. And then it was their friends, their families. So I'm now treating whole families. One day a woman comes to me and says she wants an appointment, and she shows up and I help her. She wanted a reading. And I'd actually never done readings for people, but she showed up. I did this reading. She says, "What do you charge?" And I went, "Charge? I don't charge. I was just doing this for friends." And we went back 6 people that she had been referred from, and I didn't know any of them. And she gave me money. And I thought, well, and people started giving me presents. And I thought, well, if people are willing to pay for this, I should open the healing center. So I was in California at the time, in Silicon Valley. So that's when I opened the Dancing Bear Alternative Healing Center. And I just advertised myself as a hypnotherapist, but I was doing shamanic healing and energy healing. And I had a pyramid, and I'd put people in the pyramid and do all kinds of stuff. And then I decided to go to medical school, because I was afraid through my ignorance I would hurt someone. Because when you study a lot of alternative things, they say, tell people you can do anything. And I don't agree with that, because I'd learned enough different tools that every tool has its strength and its weakness. And one size doesn't fit all. Everybody's a little different, and they need a little different tool. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to medical school. So I went to naturopathic medical school. So that's when I moved to Arizona. And while I was there, their acupuncture program was absolutely horrible. And they had a sister school, Pima. So I dropped out of their acupuncture program, and I was doing acupuncture at Pima. And after 3 years of naturopathic school, I was about to go into clinic. So I had all the sciences. I just didn't have the clinic. And I thought, you know what? I'm going too deep in debt. And I love acupuncture. And I can do all the woo-woo. And the naturopathic was too medically oriented. I didn't want to deal with prescription drugs and things. So I quit naturopathic. But I did get certified in naturopathy. But I do have a degree now in acupuncture, and I'm a licensed acupuncture. I've been licensed for over, I think, graduated in 2008. What's that, 17 years. And so I created the Dancing Bear Healing Center. And then in 2020, whole long story, we won't go into the whole thing, just say I had to close down my practice. I was teaching at I was teaching at that naturopathic college for over 5 years. I had to sell my house, quit the job, shut down my practice, and move to Cottonwood, a small town. And because of that move, I had to go online. I couldn't open a practice. I couldn't even find an office up here. So I created the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. And I had been teaching out of my office. So I had a weekly meditation group for decades. I'd started teaching when I was in California. I wrote my first book, Meditation Demystified, in 1999. And then I republished it in 2019 because it originally was 4 elements. And there are 5 elements. And I know a lot of people get really upset when I say there's 5. And there's 13 astrology signs. We've been lied to about so much, it's unbelievable. And so part of what I teach in my program is how to master the first 4, because you need them to learn the 5th. And if you want to ascend, you need that 5th element. And so that's what I'm about and what my programs are about. I hope that wasn't too long. You wanted a quick
No, that was great. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I have about 18 questions in that whole thing. So, that's really, really interesting. And I guess my first question, where do I even begin with this? I'm really curious about the modalities you quickly glossed over. And the one that really intrigued me was when you did have your office or place where you could have your practice physically in California. You mentioned pyramid that you would
Mhm,
have for people, and I'm obsessed with
mhm,
pyramids myself. I'm taking a group of people to Egypt in September next year. Been myself several times, and the experiences are mind blowing. And of course, hearing about there's some, I know there's some Russian scientists who have recreated some of these pyramids, and pyramid
mhm,
technology is something that just like
mhm.
clearly is being done, but not really discussed in a mainstream way. What was your pyramid like in your like? Could you just describe that and how that would help people?
Yeah, I have there's a lot of different kinds of pyramids. So
True.
in California, I had uh, it had a square base and triangular size, and it was the same angular proportions as the Great Pyramid, and it had a lot of crystals on it. It had I'm really into platonic solids. This is an icosahedron, dodecahedron, and then it's got like an octahedron and other shapes inside of it. So that hung inside the pyramid. And then it had not this is actually a head pyramid that you wear like this, but it had a much more complex thing, kind of like this thing on top, huge with crystals hanging from it and everything. And that's what I used in California. And then when I moved to Arizona, I discovered the Russian pyramids. So I have 2 Russian pyramids. And then there's another pyramid I had that I didn't have room for when I moved, so I gave it to a friend, but it's called Metatron's Pyramid, and it radiates energy out for over a mile. And that was an incredible pyramid. I really liked it, but you have to have a huge space for it. And I had a living room and a family room in my house before I moved, and it took up the living room. It was like 10 feet. A huge, huge pyramid. And when you meditate in them, they're pretty incredible. So, one of the more profound experiences I had in California with the square based pyramid that matches the pyramid in Egypt, I had a massage table in it. And I used to do work with, there was a woman named Angel, which was the perfect name for her. She ran 2 homes, one for younger people, one for older people, teens. But once you reach, I think, 16, you had to go to the older house. And she managed people who could not live on their own. I have this one guy that I'd helped before, and she said he keeps getting tumors, and he's going to go in on Monday for another surgery on his brain to remove this tumor. So they're neural tumors, so it's pretty serious. And she said, "Can I bring him to you?" And this was on a Wednesday. I said, "Bring him to me on Friday." So he comes into my office, and he's just angry. He won't talk. She says, here he is. And I said, would you lay down on the massage table? Is that okay? Do you mind if I do a healing? I'm just going to play some music, and I'm going to use an etheric weaver. And he knew the etheric weavers because I'd used those with him before. And he said, yeah, he liked the weavers. And I think I have one here. I'm just pulling it out real quick. So this is like an example of an etheric weaver, and I just do like this, and it's part of my energy healing ritual that I did with him in the pyramid. So he laid down, and he spent about, I think it's about 45 minutes to an hour. The treatments vary. And I did my thing, and I did my shamanic stuff and played my sacred music. I always play music. And at the end, he got up, and he was a different person. And he says, I'm so sorry. I'm a good Christian man, and I know I killed my father, but I don't know why. And it was like a different person. And I realized he had an attached entity, which was causing his schizophrenia. And I've seen that in a lot of people. And when you clear that entity, the problem goes away. And so when he went in for surgery on Monday, they said the tumor was gone. So one of the problems with working with people and trying to heal them is it them or is it their entity? And you need to get rid of the entity. Or the other problem I see is it's a past life memory. Maybe I've seen this, they had their head chopped off in a past life. So now they have chronic neck pain. So you clear the past life memory and the neck pain goes away. I met a woman who was from Lemuria. I came to Earth later than Lemuria, so I don't remember it. But she said that a lot of women had their hands cut off who were healers, and she would reconnect their hands. And I noticed when I took a lot of Reiki classes, there were people who couldn't feel the energy coming out of their hands. And so I thought, well, I can reconnect that with needles, with acupuncture needles. So I have met a number of people who don't have feeling in their hands, and you reconnect the channels, and now they can feel the energy. So that's some of the things that I've done.
Wow, that's just amazing. When I was in South Africa back in 2018, I met a man there who went through a different type of healing, but it was involving stepping into a copper uh, geometric shape. I honestly can't remember what the shape was. It kind of looked like similar to the shapes of the I forget the device you just used, but the one that was on the string or was on
The etheric weaver.
the etheric weaver. It
Yeah.
looked like that, but like size that a grown man could step inside, and it was built out of, I guess, copper tubing of some kind, pipes or something. And
Huh.
he had a tumor. He had a tumor in his back, and he did 3 sessions of that with an ionic foot bath right afterwards to, I guess, extract the toxins. And he went back to the doctor and had a similar experience, that you did, where it's like, where's the tumor? And this was a diagnosis that was really grave and not a good situation. And they were giving him like, oh, you have a couple months to live or something, the classic doom and gloom. And he's like, well, no, I'm good, and I did this incredible thing. And it's like I've been hearing incredible healing stories that involve pyramids or these geometric shapes that are being utilized in ways that I know the ancients understood exactly. So, like,
I swear by these.
well, so Beverly, what, like, do you know on a maybe on a more scientific or deeper level, like what's really going on? Like, what's happening?
Well, these are called platonic solids. So the smallest platonic solid, if you look, this is a star tetrahedron, but if you look at just the top part here, it's a triangle on 4 sides, so 3 up and 1 down. So it's not a square-based pyramid, it's a triangular-based pyramid. And these are always moving. They're at the center of everything. We live in a holographic universe. So the universe is one big Well, we'll get to one big, whatever it is. We'll start with the smallest part. And these hook together and create a star tetrahedron, or it's also known as a Merkaba in Western culture, or a Merkava in Hebrew. And this is basically light. Okay, so this is a wave. But when you look at a wave, you create a particle. So a particle is a wave in a moment of time. So that's what this is. So this is the basic building block of the universe and of everything in it. So it's, the smallest thing is this, and the biggest thing is they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why it's called a hologram. So you've got this, and then inside that you might see this octahedron in here. I don't have a separate octahedron, but an octahedron, well, I forgot the cube. Wait. So if you hold it just right, you can see there's a cube inside. So the first tetrahedron is fire. That's the fire element. Then the cube is the water element. So that's your first chakra and your second chakra. And then the third one is the octahedron. Okay, so you have the square pyramid in here, and you have the triangles above and the triangles below. So it's a pyramid above and a pyramid below. So if you look at the Star of David, that's a pyramid above overlapping this pyramid below, only it's two-dimensional. So a lot of the symbols that we see all the time are two-dimensional versions of these sacred geometric forms. So there's a thing called inversion, eversion. So that cube, so you have the cube, that's just a square, but you have a cube, and you have the octahedron, and they're inverting, everting. And in the middle is this tetrahedron, which is always moving. And the universe is always expanding. So these are always duplicating, creating more star tetrahedrons, and that causes the cubes to get bigger, and it causes the octahedron to get bigger. Then surrounding them, you have, okay, this is has these things here and all the faces, various faces. And you can't really see it well on that, but there's the dodecahedron, which is this here. So that was the icosahedron is your third chakra, and the dodecahedron is the fourth chakra. And these are on the outside, and you can see here the pentagon. So the pentagon has 12 sides to a dodecahedron, and the icosahedron and the dodecahedron are inverting, everting. They're going like this, and they're doing this really fast, faster than we can see. So it makes it look like a sphere. So Earth looks like a sphere. And there are people who say, well, there's flat Earth and then there's round Earth. Well, anybody who's seen a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse knows we're not flat. But there are things on Earth that defy logic, because you can see more. If the Earth has a curve, you can't see that far, but you can see that far. Why is it? And that's because the Earth, the outside is actually 12 flat surfaces. It's just inverting, everting so fast. And that's why when you go to chemistry, it's all a bunch of lies. They say there's this electron cloud. No, that's the inversion, eversion of the outer part of the particle. So it makes it look like a sphere, but it's not. And they go, where do the electrons go? They're inverting, everting. So when you look at this big guy, you can see all these points here of the icosahedron, but you can also see, let me see if I can find the dodecahedron in here. Okay, here's the dodecahedron. You can see the outline of it. So that's this guy here. You can see in on the outside. So it's going back and forth really fast. So you do have the outer surface is flat. There's 12 flat areas on Earth. And everywhere that these lines are, these are the meridian lines of the Earth. So these are the lines, and then you have these points where you can see a convergence And these are the major points on Earth. And isn't it interesting that there's 12 spots on Earth where you have like the Bermuda Triangle, and there's one in China, I think, one in Alaska, there's one in Lake Michigan. There's all these places where weird things happen. And where that happens is where one of these comes out of the dodecahedron. Okay, so it's a special energy point where the two icosahedron and dodecahedron are swapping places really fast. It's the middle of the dodecahedron and the point of the icosahedron. And there's 12 of those because there's 12 faces on a dodecahedron. So once you start to understand that, then you start to understand Earth and what are those ley lines, what are the meaning, what are the energy portals, what's going on. And it's because of how things are shaped, and all of chemistry is the same way. So when you go to school and you learn these little balls and sticks, I love chemistry. I took a lot of chemistry, and you put together the different elements. And if you've taken chemistry, you know what I'm talking about. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's all inversion, eversion. So you need to have a little bit of physics and a little, I like science. So once you learn all these things, you go, oh, metaphysics understands this. Western science, when I took the history of Western science, okay, you're going to find out how old I am. When I was at the University of Hawaii in 1965, they said, oh, there's no such thing as aether. Well, if you read the Vedic astrology, the Vedic literature, there is a fifth element. So the Ayurvedic medicine still has the fifth element. Chinese medicine still has the fifth element. They called it wood, but it's aether. And in the Vedic literature, they call it space or spirit. So there is a fifth element. When I studied with Dr. Gilbert, who left us, I think earlier this year, he said the Greeks removed the dodecahedron from Western culture. Now, when I looked that up, they said, oh, it was removed in like the 1700s. When was it actually moved? I don't know. But when I was at the university studying science, they said, oh, aether is just a joke. It was invented and it doesn't exist. And why is it that that's the only thing I remember from that class? And they said, oh, they also used to argue how many angels could dance on the head of a pin, and kind of made it like associated it with something silly so that you would think, yeah, it really doesn't exist. So that was my early training, but I never forgot it. It's like, why? Because in the back of my mind, I must have known from past life memories that was BS. There is a fifth element. It is the dodecahedron. This is your DNA. Guess what else it is? This is nuclear energy. So they didn't want us to know how powerful this is. And when you take one of the flat surfaces and you put it on your hand and you use it to project healing energy, it puts it on steroids. So there's a lot they hid from us. So I hope that answered your question.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, that's amazing. I love all that information. I mean, they, of course, they with a capital T, the powers that were controlling us for a long time, have done it in every possible way to subvert us from the truth of who we are and the universe and our potential and how we can be, come completely independent from all these systems that are around us if we tap into even just a couple more percentage of our potential, of our DNA's potential, etc. But it still blows my mind, and I've been on this journey for over a decade of awakening to the all the craziness of this planet and our history. It still blows my mind to hear these things because there's just, I mean, the geometry is fascinating for me because you see it in every ancient culture, and you see it, and you see also what you're mentioning, which I hadn't had it explained to me in the way you just did with the ley lines and the energy meridians of this planet. Which of course I've been to many of them, and they are, there's usually, if not always, a sacred site built on top of them, or a pyramid, right, or a stone circle or something like that. And I've meditated in some of these, and I've had unbelievably profound experiences that have changed my life. And it's just so fascinating that we're coming back to this wisdom that the ancients not only knew, but they built a grid system, on this planet to, if anything, to harness and in harmony with the planet, with Gaia and these meridian lines, use them for the benefit of the planet and of
Mhm.
humanity. It's interesting that you studied and that you studied acupuncture, because
Mhm.
acupuncture for me is always fascinating me, because it's one of the only traditional Chinese medicines, or say Eastern medicine practices, that is fully accepted by Western medicine, and even is on insurance plans and things like that. It's very acknowledged as a practice that just works. But if you could explain to us a bit more with acupuncture, because it kind of relates to our planet with the meridians, the energy pathways of our planet and our bodies, as above so below, right? What's actually going on with acupuncture, and how does that, what similarities have you found through acupuncture that you've also discovered with our planet, given these meridian energy lines?
Well, you can think of the body as having those same energy lines. We're the same thing. Remember, each of these symbols is one of our chakras. Um, so, your first five chakras are the Platonic solids. And then when you get to 6 and 7, that's this is, are you ready to join with Source? And then are you connected to Source? It's a 6th and 7th level. So you can just think of the points as your icosahedron, dodecahedron points, and then there's some internal ones. Um, but acupuncture itself is, and it moves your energy. So when you have a blockage, we experience that as pain. And when so we have what's called excess and deficiency. So an excess would be pain. Too much. So when you look at that scientifically, what the Japanese figured out is you have too many ions in one part of the body. So they invented ion pumping cords, where you move the too many negative ions in one place to another part of the body, so it bypasses the blockage. Um, so there is a scientific thing. It's too many electrolytes or ions in the wrong place, causing that excess. So it's too much in one place, not enough surrounding the body. So you want that flow of energy. And that's why things like Tai Chi and yoga, which Americans do all wrong, it's not for exercise. Yoga is a whole separate thing. Qigong is another one that helps you to clear your channels and move that energy. And that's what acupuncture does. So you can use needles. I use, where's my, here, I use laser pens. So I have a special pen, because some patients actually can't handle the needle, especially if they have fibromyalgia. So I have a special laser pen that shines a red light. So you can stimulate the points many ways. So I actually, because I don't have an office, I no longer see patients in person. So I help people online, and I can't use the laser with them online. But what I can do is I show them where the points are on the body, and I have them use essential oils. So I'm about to publish my essential oils book, so people can use their essential oils at home. And it even has a chapter on where the important points are, especially for each chakra, so that you can treat yourself. So if you do any kind of like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, you're giving yourself a treatment. You can also massage the points, like this is Heart 7. This is excellent for emotional issues. And there's 4, 5, 6, and 7. There's actually 4 of them right here. So just massaging this area can help you with emotional issues. There's 2 points on the back of the hand, here and here, that you can massage while you move around. Gets rid of back pain. How many people have low back pain? My patients would come in and say, "Oh, I really need help." I said, "Did you do your points that I showed you?" "Oh, I forgot." I always forget. But these are great points that you can do yourself for healing your back pain. So there's so much that you can do. So I like to teach people how to treat yourself, because no one else, I don't heal anybody. Okay. I've never healed anybody. You heal yourself. So what I do is awaken in you your own healer. And I show you tools you can use to heal yourself. And you could say that those are placebos. Because if you do a shamanic journey, you can accomplish the same thing. And at the end of my 3-year residential thing, Dr. Harner says, most of you will no longer need to journey after a while. You will just instantly know what to do and it will happen. And I remember when I reached that point where I didn't need to journey. I have a house full of drums and I think I have 30 rattles because I do drumming circles and things, but I hardly ever use them anymore because I just know instantly. It's there. But I've been doing this for 35 plus years. So after a while, you don't even need the tools. And that's what I try to awaken in other people, is that you can heal yourself. My dad was given 6 months to live. My mother ended up dying. And my father lived for years and remarried. But I asked him, can I help you? Can I heal you? He said no, because he was Christian and I was just horrible because I did woo-woo crap. And I said, well, can I pray for you? And he said, yes. So I did. Prayer is magic. It's just as effective as anything else. So it's whatever you believe. I tell people, use your own belief system, whatever you believe. I've taught many Muslims. I don't care what your religion is, what your beliefs is. I don't care what color you are. You're fine. You can still do this. It has nothing to do with your belief system. And so I tell Muslims, use your prayers. They have special prayers. Catholics, you can use your rosary or your prayers. Whatever you believe, you can use that as your tool to heal yourself.
Wow.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's like, well, it's also taking, some of these, because all the religions have some, there's some really wonderful qualities in all of them, that have come from some very ancient wisdom, which is really like where a lot of the religions connect, is back to ancient wisdom and honestly just self-help. Really, at the end of the day, a lot of the missing the missing gospels from the Bible, as like the Gospel of Thomas as an example, is literally like a self-help template, essentially. I mean, some of these things are so practical, and I love that. It would be great if you could just, for our audience here, what could you just list us throughout your 35 years of experience, like what have been maybe some of the top 3 things that you've seen, but also perhaps taught other people to do to help with, let's just say, the daily things we go through in life, right? You just mentioned a great one, that pressure point there for
Heart
back
7.
pain, or for heart 7, for
Heart 7.
emotional, right?
Emotional.
I started doing that as you said it, just because I was like, okay, I really want to remember that one. That's a good one. What if you could just like tease us, because we're going to give all your information, of course, in the show notes, so everyone can go check out your books and your upcoming books and all your amazing information, but maybe like a top 3 that you've seen in your career of easy little takeaways that people could do in their daily life to help with the common things we all go through.
I think one of the most important things you can do, and this is what I learned first, it's what woke me up, what's changed my life, it's why I started teaching meditation, is spend 5 to 10 minutes a day minimum meditating. Now, what I do, I remember when I got to the point where I realized you can connect to source, you connect through your crown chakra. I call this your Wi-Fi. Okay, so this is your Wi-Fi to source. And you want to be in the moment and you want to stay connected. And when you stay connected, number 1, you're always calm. And number 2, you don't get triggered. And when you get triggered, you're now reacting. And I don't know about you, but when I was younger and reacting, I had to spend a lot of time apologizing because I wasn't always very nice. I'm a Capricorn, so we're direct and honest, and people don't want honesty. They want you to tell them what they want to hear. And I didn't know that when I was young. So I learned not to get triggered. I learned that when someone's angry, to allow them to be angry and not allow that to make me angry, because that gets us nowhere. So that starts with meditation. Now, of course, I don't do, well, I probably do. I do at least an hour, at least once a day, and then shorter meditations throughout the day. I try to stay in that state. And if I find myself out of that state, I go back into it. That takes time. But something that really helps, this is my favorite. It's called lavender essential oil. It's one of the few essential oils that most people can put directly on their skin. Like I can just go like this. I can breathe it in out of the bottle. I can go like this, and I can just rub this point right here. I can go like that with the lavender oil. Okay, now you don't want to take this internally, but you can smell it. It takes 30 seconds to go through your entire body. Okay, you sniff it in. Literally, it's in your blood in seconds, and it takes less than 30 seconds to go throughout your whole body. This does everything you can think of. It will relax you, it will heal you, it will fix your skin, it does everything. But it's very, very mild. So it's not going to do, if you have serious skin issues or serious issues, you might need helichrysum or you might need frankincense. Like when I meditate, I'll use, I think I have it here. Yeah, I'll use frankincense. So this is stronger, but you'll need to dilute it. So that's what my book is about, is how did you do that? So using an essential oil, so it's called layering. So when you just do like energy healing, you're helping, but you may need, 20, 30, you may need months worth of energy healing. But you put someone in a pyramid and you add some music and then you add some energy work and maybe some crystals and some essential oils. And all of a sudden you've layered that and you've taken away a lot of those blockages and obstacles. Some of the blockages are in your aura. So you have 7 layers to your aura that match the 7 chakras. Actually, each layer and each chakra has 7 within 7 within 7. It's much more complex than just 7. But when you use an essential oil and you use sound, you're also clearing out your aura. And then you're clearing out at the cellular level and at the chakra level, and the chakras are associated with different organs and different glands. So you're working with all of that, which is the same thing acupuncture does. And with acupuncture, we also use essential oils. So how much does it cost to buy 1 bottle of lavender? I mean, if you can't have much money and you don't want to spend a lot, you should be able to buy 1 bottle. Now, I buy lavender in the giant bottle. You notice my other bottles are smaller. But I use a lot of this, and I keep it by my desk. I have more in the bathroom. I put it on before I go to bed. It helps at night. So you can put it like under your nose, so you're smelling it when you go to bed. You can put some here along the carotid artery and on the back of the neck. And then, of course, here. That's going to help you sleep. It's better than, pills and things. You can diffuse it into the room. So the other thing that I recommend is, let's face it, life right now is trauma. I don't watch the news. I don't even own a television. I grew up without TV. I'm old enough to remember when TVs came out. So I don't watch TV. But if you do, you're being programmed, and the news is the worst. But you might have someone cut in front of you while driving home, or some kind of trauma. You might stub your toe, or you might actually be in something more serious. But just daily living, there's traumas. So that's why I recommend Bach flower essence and get the rescue remedy. It's got, I think, 8 different flower essences in it. And you just put a drop, 1 little drop under your tongue, and it clears the trauma. And if you clear the trauma as it happens, so I don't know about you, but September, October, I'm also a medical astrologer. The energy, the CMEs we're being bombarded with, I think yesterday we had 5 of them hit, and the Schumann resonance is going insane. I was using Rescue Remedy daily for a while. There was an eclipse, full moon in September, And then we had another new moon and full moon in October, and we're going to have another new moon before October ends. So we just had the harvest moon. So we've got my ascendant is Cancer. It's ruled by the moon. So whatever the moon does, I'm hit. I get, I just get slammed. So I use the rescue remedy and lots of lavender. So meditation, using essential oils, using acupressure points, rescue remedy. And then on my podcast, I talk about all of this and I give you suggestions on how to deal with the energies we're going through right now. And those are some of the things that I suggest. You can do self-hypnosis. I've had a lot of people, I had one guy said, oh, I don't meditate, I use self-hypnosis. Well, guess what? It's the same state, okay? There's gamma, alpha, gamma, beta, alpha, theta, delta. Those are the 5 states. So whether you're using a shamanic journey, a meditation, hypnosis, prayer, they're all the same states. You're just using a different technique to get your body and mind into those states. So use whatever works for you if you want to use self-hypnosis, but self-hypnosis is great for self-healing. You can sit down, go into a meditative state and say, I want to talk to my low back. Why are you bothering me? How do I fix you? And I've done that. I was dying one time. I couldn't even take care of myself. My daughter had moved in and was taking care of me. And when you start to die, you see these flashes of white. You can see through everything. Everything is just energy. And when you're dying, you can see it. And I was getting to that state, and you're as close to God as you're going to be, source, whatever you want to call it. And I says, what do I do? And I got this clear message: go to this clinic right now. And I've been there. They sent me to the emergency room. Go now. Okay. I told my daughter, you need to take me to this clinic. They took me to the clinic. I got a different doctor I'd never had before. And she said, oh, this is what's wrong. And within 30 minutes, I was healed. Okay. So it was, I had something wrong and my doctor had hidden it from me. And she said, didn't your doctor tell you about this? I said, no. And so she knew how to fix it. And it was an electrolyte issue. So you can heal yourself just by connecting to source. You don't have to die. You can just ask ahead of time, hey, I think I'm getting sick. What do I need to do? So that's some of the things everybody can do.
It can be so simple, right? And yet
Yeah.
we can complicate it so easily. That's so profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. Those are going to be some incredible takeaways for the audience. And like Beverly said, check out her podcast. Like I said, that we'll throw that in the show notes as well. That sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to check it out and get some more tips. And this has been a phenomenal refresher for me. And a lot of these things I've heard of. I used to do lavender all the time. It kind of just, as I've been traveling a lot more recently, I just, sometimes you forget these things, right? And I used to go into the steam room after the gym and put it on exactly in those areas you suggested. It was so good. And I'm like, why did I stop that? I need to thank you for that reminder. So that's really fantastic. I appreciate you saying that. And then it kind of segues into these near-death experiences that you've had where, when I worked the near-death experience conference, it's known as IANS. It's acronym for like the International, I'm going to butcher it anyway, but essentially Association for Near-Death Studies. And it was like being in a room full of 500 plus people who have died and come back to life is a very profound experience. And the stories, the accounts of these people were mind-blowing, doesn't even do it justice, and emotional and beautiful and tragic and everything all rolled into one. Would you be comfortable sharing some of those experiences today on the show? And whichever ones maybe stick out to you as the most profound? I think those are always really, really incredible to hear.
Sure. I believe, after having 5 and several times being close, but not quite, that they happen to us when we need to be woken up and we're not listening, we're not meditating, we're not paying attention, or we're trying to pay attention, but the message isn't getting through. And sometimes, so we all, I don't care who you are, we have paradigms. And I always tell people, you can't see what's over here. You can only see. It's like a horse with blinders on. You want them to look forward. You don't want them to see what's over there. And we have blinders. They're called paradigms. Whatever's over here, you literally cannot see it. So when you're trying to talk to somebody and they say, no, this never happened, you'll never convince them with facts because they cannot see that. It's there. So if you have a purpose, and I have a purpose and I wasn't living it, you will get woken up. And one of the first ways you get woken up is somebody will be honest with you, and it'll upset you and piss you off, if I could say it like that. So if you get angry about something or you're triggered, there's a message there. So that's the first thing. I'm starting to feel something. What am I not hearing? Then you start to get sick. Then you get really sick. And then you'll start to die and maybe even have a near-death experience. This is a wake-up call. So it comes in layers. Now, my first one was when my daughter was born. At the time, I was an atheist. I won't go into it's a whole long story. I won't get into it. But later, when I woke up, I realized I had no purpose. But when I was dying, I'm in the light, and I'm screaming. I don't know who I thought I was talking to since I was an atheist. I can't go now. I just had a baby. I need to take care of her. I created a purpose. Well, when I got sick again near the end of my marriage, when I was really, really sick, and then I got divorced and then almost died, I had no purpose because my daughter was now old enough to take care of herself. I needed a new purpose. So I had one as part of a ritual for my shamanic. You can't graduate from your shamanic training without having one induced. So that one's not so important. But I had 3 fairly close together. And several things that I noticed is when your life flashes in front of you, what it's about is not how many degrees do you have, how big was your house, how fancy was your car, how many cars do you own, how much jewelry do you have. None of that. It's your relationships. It's what is the impact you have had on the people you have known, and what impact did they have on you. So I ended up the first time, there were 3 in a row, and all 3 of those, I ended up at the Akashic Records. So I'm there, and you don't go before someone who's going to judge you. You judge yourself. And your values are based on what I call natural law. So there's natural, universal laws that we are expected as humans to learn and to obey. And it has to do with how you treat people, how you treat the earth, how you live your life. And those are your values on the other side. So you may have certain values when you're here. You may think, well, I think I have to be the richest person in my family, or the most educated, or I have to have the most diplomas behind me, or I have to do this practice. No, that wasn't it at all. So I ended up there, and I'm looking around me, and there's literally thousands of people. Some I know from this life, some are from past lives, but all of them were dressed in the costume of the lifetime where I first met them. So I may know them in this life, but they're dressed, from decades before when I knew them in that life. And what we do is we hurt each other, or we love each other in one life, and then we meet again in another life, and maybe roles get reversed. So you might have been a man in one life, a woman in another life. You might have been someone's mom in one life and their dad in another, or you might be their child in another. But I looked around, and there was a lot of really angry people. I mean, here's all these, and you feel all their pain, whatever pain you caused, you feel all of their pain at the same time. Let me tell you, that is a big wake-up call. So that was what I needed to learn at the time, is What is your legacy? How are you treating people? And I turned around and I said, isn't there anybody that I helped? And in the back, there was a few people who raised their hands. And I went, oh, okay. So I went, okay, I need to learn how to communicate with people. I need to learn to not always be so direct, or to warn people. I'm going to be direct. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what's real. And so then the second time I had a near death experience, I ended up in the same place. And now it's about 50-50. About 50 are happy with me and 50 are not happy with me. But you still feel all that. But it was a little more balanced because the light balances the dark. And then the third time, it was more light than dark. So for me, it was, and when I looked at my astrology, because I learned astrology later, I went, oh, it's right in my astrology chart. You can see a person's soul purpose right in their chart. And some people, I look at their charts and they clearly had one reason they came here. I have two. One of them was work on relationships, and the other one was my soul purpose. So whatever your soul, some people, I look at their chart and I said, you just came here to hold the energy, to be the light. So that's all in your astrology chart. And it's, why are you here? And if you're not accomplishing it, you're going to get wake-up calls. And if you don't hear it, you're going to end up with a near-death experience. I think Damian Brinkley, I think is his name. I've never read any books on this, but he said that only Americans go into the light. Well, I only went into the light the first time, and that's when I was an atheist. After that, I never went into the light. I went directly to the Akashic Records. But with his experiences, he learned the same thing. And what does he do? He spends his time helping people transition, holding their hand, telling them, you actually don't die. There is no death. We live in a matrix. This is a training ground. And one of the things that I'd like to share now that we need to learn, that I had to learn, is to work with our shadow self. And right now, I don't know when this is going to air, but this is October, but September, October, November, this whole rest of this year is all about looking at your shadow. A lot of people say, oh, I'm love and light, and I only want to work with light people. Guess what? You're missing half the boat, because there's only light where there's dark. You have to honor the dark. Okay? Doesn't mean you become dark, but you have to love the dark, because without the dark, there's no light. Remember, God said, let there be light. There was dark first. So you have to understand the balance and get it into balance, because there will always be dark. There will always be negativity. It's, how do you work with it? How do you live with it? How do you honor it? And that's how you can take entities, dead people, demons. I've met demons, but you can't deal with them if you're only in the light and you don't honor the dark, because you have to honor them, respect them. I pull them into my heart and then send them into the light. Well, if you don't honor them, you can't pull them into your heart, because they won't come. Instead, they'll attack you. And people do get attacked by demons. So I hope that covered everything.
And again, fascinating stories. Answer to that. It's always, it makes me think more about our health and the medical world that we live in currently, where it's the opposite of multidimensional. Of course, it's so linear and backwards for a million reasons that we can do 5,000 other podcasts on probably. But it's fascinating because if we just get into our purpose, which not from an egotistical sense, but just when I look at the world, I do have to see the percentage is quite high of people that have no clue what their purpose is, and because and not to fault them in any way, we're in a rat race here. We're in a very stressful, anxiety-induced situation on this planet, which is designed that way to keep us, from our truth, from our gifts, from our talents, and from our purpose, right? But once we align to that, it's incredible how our health and our wealth and our abundance and our relationships and the love in our life, everything just comes together in a much more harmonious way. And dare I say, things even can become a bit more easy, even though easy is a relative term, because like you said, we always have to deal with the shadow, with the dark. I mean, yin and yang, even on the side of yin, there's a bit of yang in the smaller circle, and in the yang, there's a bit of yin in there. There's always going to be this play of light and dark, because that's what we need. And to fear the shadow, to fear the dark. I'm really glad you said that. Is something that in the spiritual community can sometimes be really
Mhm.
ignored, or deemed evil and bad. But from my experience, all the strength and the growth and evolution has come from my shadow, and has come from the
Mhm.
darkness, so to speak. So
Mhm.
it's something that we really need to look at. Beverly, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but we'd have to do like 18 other podcasts here. I love this. This is such a great conversation. My last question before we close it off would be just to kind of take it back a little bit. This is more of a personal interest of mine, because I'm a musician by trade. And you mentioned sound and music, is a big part of your healing practice. You say you incorporate it all the time, or as much as you can. That's been my experience as well. I've been involved in and composed music for these multi-layered healing modalities. Like, that's the way I like to approach healing, is similar to you, where it's just like, can we just throw all the things, together here? Like, can I be in the pyramid? Can I have the sound and the essential oils and this? You know what I mean? Like, I am all for that. I have a
Yeah.
couple practitioners I work with who are, like, I just call them magicians at this point, because of you can't call them one thing, because they're doing like 18 of them, depending on the person. I think that's fantastic personally. But what has your experience been? You said you have like 20 drums and all this stuff, and I know you don't use it as much anymore, but what has your experience been with sound and music specifically used as a healing modality? What has that been like, and what maybe why does it work so well?
Well, several things. We can talk about how I learned it, and then we can talk about the science behind it a little bit. Um, I'm also certified in color puncture, which uses colored light and crystals. They also use essential oils and sound, but it's invented by Peter Mendel. He's a German, but I think his clinic is in Austria. And uh, it's a very intense healing modality. So acupuncture itself takes time, and then if people want color puncture, that takes time. And then I also use tuning forks. I have one that's way over there, but I use the Accutonics tuning forks. I think the rest are in my treatment room. Um, and that's labor intensive and takes time. And I wanted to combine them all. So when I went back to school to get a PhD, I wanted to do my dissertation on how to combine acupuncture, light, and sound. And sound included, music, tuning forks, whatever. And I did a lot of research. I had to look into physics and everything. And what I discovered is I like to use the analogy of a piano. Most people know a piano, and it's got 88 keys, and there's white ones and black ones. And the middle C is in the middle. Well, if you were to take from the end of the piano, add 80 more octaves, that's light. So light and sound are just a matter of frequency. But our eyes only see certain frequencies, so they only see light. Our ears only hear certain frequencies, so that's sound. So we have this notion in a human body that light and sound are different. But if you go from infrared to ultraviolet, it's just a matter of frequency. It's just a matter of how much it's vibrating. So a low frequency has a long curve and kind of a rounded top, and say that's 1 second. Whereas a high frequency might go up and down 100 times in 1 second. So that's the high frequency versus the low frequency. And because it's going so fast, it's more pointy rather than rounded. And so everything is the same. It's just a wave. And is it going really fast, or is it going slower? And so I came up with a process where I could combine all three. And I wanted to invent a device that did that, but I'm not an engineer, so I haven't invented the device, but I put it out there. And if one person thinks of it, other people will think of it. And I met some engineers and I told them what I want to do, and it's up to them to figure it out. And people are now doing that. They're starting to combine light and sound in devices. I have one, it uses, oh shoot, it's in the other room. It's in my treatment room, but it uses okay, I'll think of it in a minute. I always forget the names of things. And anyway, it uses a certain kind of energy, and then I have this light thing, so I combine it. So when you combine light and sound, it increases the frequency scalar. Okay, I have two different scalar device energies, and there's a lot of people now combining scalar with laser, all kinds of incredible devices now that are available. They're expensive. You know, my device cost me over $10,000, so they're not cheap. But you can get incredible healing, and you don't even need to use the needles. But you're using the same areas on the body where the channels run. I call them channels because that's the literal Chinese definition is vessels, but all the books I studied from call them channels. When the French learned this, they called them meridians. So a lot of people call them meridians, but the problem with meridians is that's only the surface. And you've got internal channels, you've got lymph channels, you've got nerve channels. So calling them vessels doesn't work for me, and calling them meridians doesn't work. So if you hear me say channels, I'm talking meridians. And it's yin and yang, by the way. Not yang. Everybody calls it yang. So with our body, our bones are maybe 10% water. They're pretty solid, but our blood is about 80% fluid, water. And if you're an infant, you're about 90%. But infants, their bones aren't even solid yet. They're kind of, loose. And so whenever you have a sound wave, especially a slow one that goes like this, it's going to go into the body. And if you studied, what's his name? Mirasu? Oh, I forget his name. Anyway, the guy in Japan who studied water and how the frequencies affect the water. So like I'll take a water bottle and I'll put, boost thyroid on it. That changes the frequency of that water. Then you drink it, it boosts your thyroid. So if you do the same thing with your body, that's why affirmations work. That's why when your mind, your thoughts, okay, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, especially when you put I am, the I am, that's powerful. I am healthy. You tell your body that, your body manifests that. I am healthy. You embody healthy. I am wealthy. I am wise. That is the first thing I tell myself. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am wise. I wake up to that. I go to sleep to that, because that I am is who you are. So if you're going, I'm going to erase this. I am so dumb. I am so whatever. Okay, erase all that. That's what you're creating in your body. And if a doctor says you've got 6 months to live, you go, oh, I only have 6 months to live. Erase that. Then guess what? You're going to manifest that. But if you say, you know what, I'm spontaneously healing. So this water, water. Water is the most healing thing you have. It's second chakra energy. Sound is like water. It's the airwave water. Okay. So when you play, there's this thing I discovered during my research called solfeggio frequencies. They are incredible, and binaural beats will balance your left to right hemisphere. So if you play solfeggio frequencies that are binaural beats, you have to wear a headset, because each left and right, they're stereo, left and right, one side is off by, I think it's a quarter of a frequency. And what it does is, if you listen to it without a headset, it sounds like music. When you listen with a headset, this beat creates a third note. So as it balances your hemisphere, it creates a third note. And that third note then allows that energy to go into the body. And there's frequencies that do DNA repair. I think that's 496, something like that. Then there's one, I think it's 986. It connects you to source. I play that one all the time. I love it. So when you take music, so if you're creating music and you create it with binaural beats using solfeggio frequencies. Now, one of the things that happened to us, I think it was in the 1930s sometimes, they changed the frequency of the note A. So there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And they took A and they changed the frequency to 4,000 hertz. I think it is 400 hertz. And it used to be, I think, 432 hertz, something like that.
440 hertz.
440. Yeah, they changed it. So all the music we hear. So in the 80s, I went, there's something wrong with the music. I stopped listening to modern music. I don't listen to it anymore. Not only are the words, especially when they came out with that, what do they call it? It's not really singing. The words are nasty. Oh, I forgot. I don't even remember what you call it because I don't listen to that crap. It's horrible. But if you go on YouTube and you do a search for solfeggio music, there's just literally thousands of incredible, there's a lot of different channels and a lot of different artists creating that music. And I always give people in my classes examples. Now, I like hung drum. I like things with drumming, maybe my shamanic background. So I listen to a lot of hung drum stuff. I do still listen to a lot of drumming music, but you can still get drumming solfeggio music. You can get music that is for each of your chakras if you want to work on a certain chakra. You can get music that works on certain emotions. You can get DNA repair. There's just about anything you can think of available now in the form of music. And that those sound waves go into your body and it causes the water in your cells and in your blood to vibrate with that frequency. So that's one of the reasons the sound works. That, and it goes into your ears, it affects your brain, it affects your cognition. You'll be more aware. You'll actually become more intelligent. If you have brain fog, you need to clean up your diet, but it'll also get rid of the brain fog. And like I said, it'll make you more intelligent. And the more connected you are to source, the more intelligent you become because the information you need just flows in. It's really incredible. So I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry, the fan is on this time of year when it's hot. The fan is on in my hair.
There you go. It's like
I have
a
this
music video
spray I
shoot now.
made. Yeah, it's just been driving me crazy because it keeps blowing in my face. So I just
No,
sprayed it down.
it's okay. Can we get hair and makeup in here, please, everyone? No, Beverly, thank you. That was amazing. I mean, that basically just summed up most of my career in therapeutic music because that's literally everything I've integrated into my work. And I've just launched a therapeutic music library, which the listeners and viewers can check in the show notes below.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
literally just I did it specifically for practitioners and therapists and coaches and healers and all that to use to have like a growing library with the binaural beats, with the solfeggio frequencies, with the 432 hertz tune music, or I think it's 526, I believe, or 528. There's another tuning that's more heart chakra based. Well, so is 432. But anyway, there's so much that we can do with sound. Like you said, it was altered during World War II, roughly, or a bit before that. There's a whole debate on that whole story, but it was altered clearly. And I still maintain, I mean, I've had profound experiences with music that was tuned to 440 hertz, don't get me wrong, and I always say that music's still music, it's still powerful, but when you can alter the tuning, that's really when you can get to some incredible stuff. Like, what are you holding right now? Is that a
This is
flute?
my
I knew
instrument,
it.
my Native
Yeah.
American flute. And then I
Oh.
have a crystal,
Oh yeah, you got the crystal bowl
this
there.
guy, and
Oh,
then I
those are
have a
beautiful.
Tibetan bowl, and Yeah, all of those different sound things, and then I have my what I call my thunder drum, which I use for
Oh, I've heard of
drumming, but
those.
I have
Mm,
a huge elk skin drum, and I will sometimes when I need to clear people or I've cleared buildings, I'll use that big drum because it's got that really heavy, deep,
yes.
big, and I'll
Yeah,
use that to clear blockages, and I'll just go around a person and clear them with the drum. It's amazing what you can do just using a drum.
I
And then
know.
I studied with Nora Whiteowl, who is a Cherokee medicine woman, and she's my hair's blowing again. She's a tool maker, and so I have my special tool. I didn't make this one. This is made by Two Walks. But this is my healing rattle that I use when I want to. I find online when I'm doing a shamanic journey for someone, I want them to know I'm still journeying. So I'll use the rattle so they can see, okay, I'm still doing my thing. So they're not just sitting there watching me with my eyes closed. Um, so I do have certain tools that I will use that are there to help the person know that the work is being done, and it gives them time to go into their own inner space and to think about how they're healing and to feel it. You should be feeling it as you heal because the energy of your body is changing and your frequency changes and your vibration starts to go up. And as it goes up, this is what people are finding. All of a sudden, they don't want to be around certain people. Maybe it's a friend that's always irritated them sometimes, or maybe it's a family member. Like I have certain family members that I love dearly, but I don't want to be around them. I don't like their energy. So it's okay not to be around certain people, but more and more people now are starting to become more and more isolated because they cannot be like I can't go to functions where there's hundreds of people. I mean, even if I have a huge black tourmaline that I used to wear when I was around people. I can't be around big crowds anymore. It's just there's just too much. I'm too much of an empath. I hear too much and feel too much. And I'm starting to see that more and more now with more people. As more people wake up and they start to raise their frequency, they just can't be around some of the other people. I have a friend that I've known for decades that we remember a past life together. I have a lot of people I've known in past lives and we remember them. And I just had to mute her on Facebook because I just can't listen to her drivel anymore. Um, so that's going to happen more and more as people heal and they upgrade their frequency. And we're going to want to be around other people at that higher frequency. So I see more division happening as some people are stuck in lower frequencies. And I'm not talking about left and right. Okay. I'm an independent, I'm not left or right. Whether you raise your frequency or not doesn't have anything to do with politics. Okay. So people are just going to start raising their frequency, and the higher you go, the more you're going to want these sounds, light. You're going to pay attention to your environment. You're going to get rid of clutter in your house. My clutter is books. I have every room is wall-to-wall bookcases full of books, and now they're stacked up. You can see them over here because I just I've got another table over here with books stacked up, and they're over here stacked up because I'm always studying and learning. That's my biggest clutter. But other people are going to start cleaning up. And as you clean up your environment, you're going to start cleaning up your energy, and it's going to start removing blockages from your body. So where in your house do you have clutter? Most people have a room, a desk, someplace that has clutter. And as you start to clear that up, it's going to change your frequency. And that's what I see happening now with people, with just in general. And they're going to start raising their frequency. And what's going to happen? I'm not going to make a prediction. It depends on who you talk to. Some people say, oh, I was told this will happen. Some people say this will happen. I'm not going to go there. I believe the earth will be here for a very long time still. But we do go through periods of change, and we're in the middle of a major change. We're in the middle of a 25,000 year change. So you have changes every 200 years, you have changes every 2,500 years, and you have changes every 25,000 years. And we're at the 25,000 year mark. So that's what's happening. If you feel a little unsettled and a little crazy at times, that's why.
Yeah, the end of a massive cycle, as you just said, right? Where the Yuga cycles, as it's referred to in the Veda texts,
Mhm.
or the Great Year, as the Greeks like Plato and stuff have talked about, the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. I just did a live with my good friend Neil of Portal to Ascension yesterday, just talking about the Boogosphere, but then we got into a whole the Boogosphere, for those that don't know, is just a extraterrestrial potentially object that was found in Colombia, Buga, Colombia. It looks like a metal soccer ball, for lack of a better description, but it's very anomalous. There's so many crazy properties, anti-gravitic things, and heating without feeling like it's hot, but then emitting heat signatures, etc. Fiber optics have been found inside it now. It's crazy. We did a whole thing on it, but the thing that we were the most interested in was the Yuga cycles, because they dated it, the carbon dated the Boogosphere to 12,500 years ago, which was the end of the last ice age, which was the halfway point of the 25,000 year cycle. And so we really clearly go through cycles. But when people try to make predictions on this, I'm like, predictions are, if we think about the multiverse that we live in, predictions are a potential timeline that we're talking about. So,
Exactly. You can
there's
change
no,
timelines. I've done that more than once.
me too. And then that's where we experience things like these Mandela effects, or
Oh,
we're like,
yeah.
I swear that store wasn't there before, and then you think you're
Yeah.
going crazy. No, you just jump timelines in the multiverse.
I just had that. I was driving down a road. I was going to turn in my ballot. We just had an election. I was going to turn in my ballot. I'm driving down a road. It's not a main drag that I have driven down over 5 years. It's the main way to get to that part of town. I'm driving down it, and it's like, wait a minute, everything's changed. Nothing's the same. What's going on? I think, oh my God, I've changed timelines again. Nothing was the same. It was all different. I couldn't figure out what happened. Why is everything so different? Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
I also say to people too, when they're like, "Oh, well, the people around me, aren't thinking the same way as me," and the awakening journey can be very isolating. Absolutely true.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you have two choices, right? Like you just mentioned, you can stop associating with those people, which is usually sometimes the way to take it out of your
Mhm.
life. That's fine.
Mhm.
But the other way is that as you change, the people around you change too. And sometimes the people that you're stuck with, like family, um, you can see fantastic, interesting evolutions in their behavior. Maybe not in full alignment with you and what you want and things, but you see a change. And that change, I think, is because you're jumping timelines on a timeline where they've changed as well. And so when we think these things are impossible and never going to happen, well, it can happen in the blink of an eye because of this quantum reality that we live in. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Beverly. Thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, I could keep going on and on, but I literally have to get to another appointment anyway after this podcast, and I'm sure you do too. But this was a fantastic, fantastic episode. I'm so grateful for having you on here. Before we sign off, could you just let our listeners and viewing audience know where they can connect with you and check out your books and all your amazing information?
Well, if you go to Dr. Beverly Lawrence, drbeverlylawrence.com, um, I have like 14 websites because I do a lot of different things, but you can get everywhere from there. I do have a free program called OM for Success. It's om4success.com. It's free. It is the master class I used to teach. So it has a 30-day intensive where you learn first the 4 element ways to meditate, and then the 5th element. And you need to learn the first 4 so that you can learn the 5th, which is these 4 combined. And it's free. So it ends with a 7-day master program that I used to teach. And now it's all free. So it's in my app, but if you go to Dancing Dr. Beverly Lawrence or Om for Success, it'll tell you all about that and how to find it. My dancingbeareo.com, you'll learn all about the essential oils. I do have a weekly podcast on YouTube at the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. Again, the link is at drbeverlylawrence.com. And I do have a summit coming up, although it may be over with by the time you see this. It'll be November 1st. But I do have a 1-year, I call it Wu Shen Holistic Healing Certification Program. I used to teach it as a medical intuitive. And to be a medical intuitive, and I've taken medical intuitive programs, and I have a lot of books on medical intuition, but you need to work with a doctor and you can't diagnose. And I thought this is stupid because you learn the same thing. So I call it holistic intuitive, and I base it on Chinese medicine. That's why I call it Wu Shen, but Wu Shen is Taoist. So it's based on the ancient Taoist beliefs. Wu Shen, and that starts in January. So the first part will be 1 year, and there'll be an add-on second part, a second year, and then there'll be a retreat because there's certain things I've tried to teach online, like how to do psychic surgery, how to read minds, how to do telepathy, how to do remote viewing. I teach all of that in a retreat. So that'll be at the end of the program. And once you do the retreat, you can get certified. And I also have an essential oils program. It's a new one. I have an old one with, I think, 6 classes, and the new one will be 30 classes. And it'll be almost a 1-year program to teach you how to blend oils, how to use oils. And I have a medical astrology. I do medical astrology readings. It's not the same as natal astrology. It's I look at your chart and tell you, some people will say, I get depressed sometimes. Why? And you can look at where Mars and Saturn is in your chart, and you can say, okay, here's where you're susceptible to depression, or I got cancer. Why? And how do I fix that? It's all in your astrology chart, your diet, everything. And what I've noticed is it's also what diet you should have. Like in my chart, it says I've tried to be a vegetarian. I get sick. Well, it's right in my astrology chart. I need beef. It's all there. It's in your DNA also. I used to do DNA tests. I don't do that anymore. So just go to Dr. Beverly Lawrence, or you can go to omforsuccess.com, get in and take the class, and you'll start getting my emails, and you'll find out everything that way. So, Chris, I really want to thank you so much. And I'll leave you with, remember to be the light you want to see in the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beverly. That's amazing. Everyone, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. This was such a wealth of information. Thank you so much to Dr. Beverly for being on the show. And like I said a million times in the episode, check out all of her information in the show notes. What incredible range of topics that we had. And, for those that are more interested in the things we're doing here with Ancient Mysteries Unearthed, I did mention that we've just launched a therapeutic music library at therapeuticmusiclibrary.com. And it's for coaches, practitioners, people like Dr. Beverly and lots of other people like her and myself who are just on this path of healing and trying to reawaken all these incredible gifts that we have. So using sound and music has been my method of choice for a long time, and it's all included in that library. So check it out in the show notes below, as well as Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. We do sacred site tours all the time. We got our first ones starting in September 2026 in Egypt. So all that information will be in the show notes below. Until next time, though, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.